Hi, it's Katrina. History is no longer confined to the archives and excavation sites. A powerful new force is joining the quest to understand our past: artificial intelligence. From deciphering lost scripts to bringing back forgotten languages and uncovering buried cities, AI is providing archaeologists and historians with unprecedented tools to uncover and interpret the remnants of bygone eras. Are you excited? Let's get into it. AI revives ancient scripts. What if you could suddenly unlock 1,000,000 lost voices from the past? For centuries, deciphering ancient scripts like cuneiform was the academic equivalent of solving a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle blindfolded in a sandstorm. Experts would spend years, sometimes lifetimes, hunched over clay tablets trying to translate messages from long-dead kings and bureaucrats who loved paperwork. But now, all of that's changed. Artificial intelligence has kicked down the door, dusted off the ruins, and said, "All right, language geeks, let's speed this up." The issue with cuneiform is that it isn't your average writing system. It's the granddaddy of them all, the oldest known form of writing. Developed in ancient Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago, it looks like someone let a chicken tap dance across a wet clay tablet. With over 1,000 squiggly signs that mutated over centuries and regions, cuneiform is less like a language and more like interpretive dance in stone. Scientists have been having a real bummer of a time trying to make sense of it. Until now. Proto-Snap eats cuneiform for breakfast. It's a next-gen AI system created by researchers from Cornell and Tel Aviv University. It uses something called a diffusion model, an AI with a photographic memory, to match blurry, broken cuneiform signs with prototype characters. Think of it like Photoshop autocorrect, but for ancient Babylonian tax forms. Using Proto-Snap, scholars are suddenly deciphering way more texts way faster. It's not just a tool, it's a time machine. Here's a figure that's going to blow your mind. The estimated number of excavated cuneiform tablets ranges between 500,000 and 2 million. Of these, only approximately 30,000 to 100,000 have been read or published. Most of them are just sitting there like your junk mail. Proto-Snap could help unlock thousands of these untouched and ancient documents, giving us front-row seats to the economy, politics, and grocery lists of ancient Mesopotamia. Archaeologist Yoram Cohen said we are talking about increasing the available ancient sources by tenfold. This is big data, but in clay. Thanks, Yoram, and keep up the good work. Cuneiform isn't the only ancient script getting a glow up with AI. Remember the Herculaneum scrolls? Maybe not, so let me give you a recap. Herculaneum was buried under Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD alongside Pompeii. In the ruins, archaeologists found scrolls burnt to a crisp. They could never be read because opening them would be like trying to open burnt toast. Touch one book and poof, it flakes away like ancient dandruff. Then, in 2023, a team of AI-powered brainiacs trained algorithms to detect traces of ink within the carbonized scrolls without even unrolling them. By February 2024, they had revealed 16 columns of Greek text in a crispy book, previously lost to the world since the Roman Empire was trending. And the success stories keep coming. In Korea, AI is helping scholars comb through centuries of royal archives from the Joseon dynasty, uncovering patterns in governance and diplomacy. From broken clay tablets to scrolls torched by volcanoes, the ancient world has been whispering to us for thousands of years. And now we have AI-powered ears to hear the lost messages. I'm excited! Orca knife fight. AI has found an orca knife fight. I know that sounds like clickbait, but it's true. In the sun-scorched silence of southern Peru's Nazca Desert, where the landscape looks a little too much like Mars, ancient artists made some of the biggest doodles in history. You know them as the Nazca Lines. More than 300 new lines have just been found, and one of them is a killer whale brandishing a knife. I told you it was true. Thanks to a very busy team of researchers and an AI that moonlights as a geoglyph detective, these new revelations are taking the world by storm. These are not your typical Nazca lines either. There are a staggering number of alien-like humanoids etched onto the desert's surface. Floating decapitated heads, too. And of course, Willie after he got recruited by the Yakuza and given a dagger. The Nazca lines are giant geoglyphs etched into the desert by the Nazca people, a pre-Inca civilization that had a flair for large-scale graffiti. Their designs, carved between 200 BC and 500 AD, were made by brushing away the top layer of rust-colored rocks to reveal lighter ground underneath. The result of all this hard work were massive drawings of everything from monkeys and birds to what might be ancient emojis. I don't know. The lines stretch across 170 square miles of desert. Until recently, only, and I say only in the humblest way possible, about 430 had been documented. That number just jumped to over 730, and all it took was a well-trained AI model. Scientists sat back and let the robot do their job for them. No, but seriously, we still need archaeologists. AI can't work without experts training the program and analyzing the data. This team was led by real human Masato Sakai from Yamagata University. The whole project wrapped up in only 6 months, taking the AI between September 2022 and February 23 to find all of these new glyphs. The digital helper identified likely geoglyph candidates 20 times faster than a human could. Then, when the researchers went to check things out in person, each geoglyph identified by the AI turned out to be the real deal. There were the usual glyphs: birds, cats, fish, a whole pre-Inca zoo. But there were also ceremonial scenes, abstract humanoid figures that looked like rejected characters from Star Wars, and a 72-foot-long, knife-wielding orca who absolutely deserves its own action movie. 72 feet? That's way bigger than a real orca. The AI still has a bunch of geoglyphs on its list to investigate. There are around 250 more candidates waiting for human confirmation. If this trend keeps up, don't be surprised if the next discovery includes a giant ancient alpaca flossing or a prehistoric spider with an Uzi. And don't forget, you'll find all the latest info on Origins Explained. And now for a quick break, because it's shoutout time! I want to give a big thank you to Elise Joyanna and Allison McIntyre for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for watching and letting me be a part of your day. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Deciphering oracle bones. Forget dusty scrolls and faded papyrus. The real Indiana Jones level challenge lies in making sense of 3,000-year-old tweets etched onto turtle shells. And now AI is stepping up to the plate to decipher the ancient questions hidden within these oracle bones. Scholars have tried to unravel the secrets of oracle bones for the last century without much success. These bones, which aren't actually bones but rather fragments of turtle shell and ox scapula, are etched with the earliest known Chinese writing. It's been one of archaeology's most intense slow burns. But now, Tencent has entered the chat with AI, 3D models, and a shiny new platform that is giving ancient glyphs a digital revival. This new technology is decoding the most important questions people asked 3,000 years ago. Questions like, will it rain tomorrow? Or should I sacrifice another goat? Tencent's new platform, the Oracle Bones Corpus, launched in May 2024. It's not your average dusty archive. It's an interactive online playground for researchers and amateur history fans, packed with ultra-detailed digital scans, layered ink rubbings, and AI-assisted deciphering tools. This is pretty cool because it's giving the ability to decode ancient text to anyone with an internet connection. Instead of scientists squinting at blurry photocopies, anyone can use the Oracle Bones Corpus online. But why are there even so many of these things that scientists made a whole platform to decode them? Well, I'll tell you. First discovered in the early 1900s, oracle bones were the original receipts of Shang Dynasty divination practices, used to record everything from crop predictions to royal anxieties. Over 160,000 oracle bones have been uncovered so far, revealing 4,500 distinct characters. Fewer than 1,500 of them have been matched to modern Chinese. That means the other 3,000 characters are a total mystery. But now, Tencent's AI is here with its digital magnifying glass and superhero-level pattern recognition. Just check out how advanced this tech is. One of the biggest challenges in studying oracle bones is that they are ridiculously fragile. They're like ancient eggshells with homework on them. Handling them is often forbidden because they break so easily. To solve this, Tencent introduced Indentation Highlight, a tool that digitally enhances the shallow carvings on oracle bones. It boosts visibility of each faint groove and stroke like someone cranked up the contrast on 3,000 years of wear and tear. Now researchers can zoom in on individual lines and compare them side by side with historical rubbings and 3D models, all without leaving their desks or accidentally snapping an artifact in half. Tencent's AI work isn't about replacing researchers. It's about equipping them with tools powerful enough to finally keep up with the vast scale of this ancient script. With fewer than half the known Oracle bone characters deciphered, there is still an enormous puzzle to piece together. But now, it's like scholars got upgraded from magnifying glasses to night vision goggles. Soon they'll have a database of thousands upon thousands of questions people thought were important enough to ask an oracle in ancient China. If oracles were still around and you had one question, what would you ask? Ancient Fantasies of Artificial Life. Long before Boston Dynamics taught robots to do parkour and Siri learned how to ignore half of your questions, the ancient Greeks were already dreaming up artificial life. And honestly, their versions of AI were way more metal than ours, literally. AI is making waves in archaeology, but I'd like to stop and take a minute to discuss what the ancients thought AI would look like in their future. Because way before everyone grew worried about Skynet, the Greeks were envisioning their own apocalyptic robot takeover. Stanford classic scholar Adrienne Mayer has been diving deep into ancient Greek myths to track their earliest ideas of robots and AI. Her research shows that our modern obsession with machines that think, walk, and freak us out isn't new. It's really, really old. Forget Roombas. They never get in the corners anyway. The Greeks imagined Talos, a 30-foot-tall bronze guy built by the forge god Hephaestus. Talos supposedly stomped around the island of Crete, defending its shores by tossing giant boulders at enemy ships. Talos wasn't just muscle. He had a kind of divine hydraulic system. A single vein ran from his head to his foot and was filled with ichor, the mysterious golden lifeblood of the gods. In the myth, the witch Medea outsmarts Talos by pulling the plug and draining the ichor out of his robotic circulatory system. She removes the bolt in his ankle and lets the ichor leak out, like draining a keg of oil. Mayer, who is also a historian of science, said Talos is one of the earliest examples of a robot in human storytelling, first showing up around 700 BC in the works of Hesiod. Now here's where it gets even more interesting, or, depending on how much you trust your toaster, slightly unsettling. We've all heard of Pandora, right? Not the jewelry store, but the woman who opened a box and unleashed evil into the world. I don't want to be that person, but technically there was no box. In the myth, Pandora opens a jar. Anyway, Mayer said that Hesiod's original version of Pandora wasn't a clueless human. She was a custom-built artificial woman, designed by Hephaestus and programmed to be beautiful, charming, and very destructive. Mayer said she was more like an ancient AI agent. Her sole mission was to infiltrate human society and unleash suffering. Dang, that's the classic evil bot storyline. But how in the world did Hesiod dream up these things? Did the Greeks know something about AI that we don't? Or did Hesiod just have a really good imagination? And still, there are more robots. Hephaestus, as if programming Pandora to destroy the world and building a sentient behemoth wasn't enough, also had golden robot maids. According to Homer, author of the Odyssey and the Iliad, Hephaestus created a team of self-moving, gold-plated assistants who looked like women, walked and talked, and were loaded with divine knowledge. Hephaestus had the world's first harem of love bots. Now that's some creepy stuff. The deeper message running through these myths is one that should still be heeded today. And that message is, be careful what you create. Adrienne Mayer pointed out that none of these tales ends well once artificial beings are released into the human world. Could this message be a memory of a time forgotten, when robots and AI destroyed humanity and sent everyone back to the Stone Age? Were the Greeks trying to warn us about creating something we might not be able to control? Restoring lost ancient artwork. Once buried under centuries of dust and the weight of history, one of the greatest paintings of the ancient world just got the digital makeover of a lifetime. And no, it wasn't done by a bearded guy with a brush and a romantic playlist. It took a full team of scientists, artists, and artificial intelligence. I introduce you to the Revice project, where classical Greek frescoes meet high-tech wizardry. Now let me back it up a few thousand years. Around the 4th century BC, someone painted a massive hunting scene inside a royal tomb. Well, not just any royal tomb. This was the final resting place of Philip II of Macedon, Alexander the Great's dad. There were no #1 dad mugs in the tomb, but archaeologists did find a monster of a fresco. It's about 18 feet long and is considered the Mona Lisa of ancient Greek paintings. In 1977, archaeologists at Vergina, Greece, uncovered this masterpiece in Philip's tomb. It showed 2 men on horseback, one older, one younger. It's probably meant to be Phil and Alex, out hunting on a father-son bonding trip. But time is a bit of a jerk. The fresco was faded, damaged, and harder to interpret than a cryptic emoji text from your 8-year-old cousin after they saw the Minecraft movie. This is where Revise has come into play. Led by Dr. Chariclea Bricolaki of the National Hellenic Research Foundation, the Revise project called in the big brains to recreate the fresco, showing what it originally looked like when Alexander the Great was still alive. One of the people on the team was visual artist Christos Simatos. Christos trained an AI to do more than just draw cats. With help from painter Emanuel Bitsakis, they cracked the case using every tool at their disposal. The scientist, painter, and visual artist and AI came up with this? I know it's not the Sistine Chapel, but come on. This is an awesome fresco of Alexander the Great himself with his father. Just check out those details. The fresco was way more advanced than anyone thought. The layers of colors, refined brush techniques, and pigment palette all showcase the incredible talent of Greek painters. They could have taught a masterclass on artistic genius. But we would never know that now if not for AI. You saw how damaged the fresco was, but a quick scan and the right program brought it back to life. And scientists will be doing a whole lot more of this type of rejuvenation soon. Once the technology gets the green flag and becomes easy to use, a whole new world of ancient art will be revived. Which culture's lost artwork do you want to see first? The Babylonian paintings inside their ziggurats? Nubian artwork? Inca portraits? Let me know. AI reveals shocking biblical truths. Could artificial intelligence rewrite our understanding of the Holy Book's most ancient secrets? After more than 70 years of scholarly head-scratching, artificial intelligence has just helped expose a secret hidden in one of the oldest, most sacred texts on Earth, the Bible, or more specifically, the Great Isaiah Scroll, a 24-foot-long biblical blockbuster found in the Dead Sea Caves. It is one of the original Dead Sea Scrolls, which were written before the rough draft of the New Testament was even sent to the publishers. The Dead Sea Scrolls were stashed in a series of caverns above the Dead Sea. Then, in 1947, they were found by a Bedouin shepherd playing archaeological hide-and-seek in the Qumran caves. These texts include the earliest known biblical manuscripts in the world, dating back over 2,000 years. Biblical researchers have always assumed that the Dead Sea Scrolls, including the Great Isaiah Scroll, were written by individual scribes. Each scroll had its own author, but AI has just disproved that assumption. It turns out the Dead Sea Scrolls was a group project, with each scroll being ghostwritten by multiple people. This bombshell was dropped by a team of code crackers from the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, led by Biblical Studies professor Mladen Popovic and AI expert Lambert Shoemaker. Phew, that's a big team. The researchers turned to AI because, let's face it, humans have limits. After 2,000 years, ancient ink tends to look pretty similar. You wouldn't be able to differentiate your handwriting from the handwriting of a platypus after 2,000 years. Luckily, artificial intelligence is better at that stuff than our human eyes. It was trained to focus on one key letter, the Hebrew Aleph. Aleph shows up over 5,000 times in the Great Isaiah Scroll, giving the AI plenty of material to analyze, from microscopic flicks of the wrist to the curvature of each stroke. The ink traces relate directly to a person's muscle movement, said Shoemaker, meaning the way a person holds a stylus leaves a unique handwriting fingerprint in every stroke. Are you with me? Using neural networks, digital imaging, and a technique called binarization, the AI mapped out tiny stylistic differences invisible to the human eye, and only with the letter Aleph. But it was all the AI needed. At least 2 people wrote this scroll, maybe a third, but definitely 2. Now, scientists just have to figure out why. Scholars think there was probably a pair of scribes, likely educated in the same scribal school. They were like ancient roommates pulling an all-nighter on a 17-sheet parchment deadline. It makes sense that two scribes would complete one scroll given the difficulty of the work. They didn't exactly have keyboards and spell check in the 1st century BC. But the real breakthrough with this discovery is that it opens up a lot of biblical possibilities. It's got everyone wondering, how many people wrote the Bible? 2, 4, 20 different scribes? Maybe AI will solve this mystery next. Artificial intelligence joins the Navy. Who says history has to stay buried? In a shocking twist of technology, artificial intelligence is now helping restore one of Britain's most iconic warships, the HMS Victory. The Victory was Lord Nelson's legendary flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar, and leading the charge in its preservation isn't an elite tech firm or a top-secret military lab, but a team of master's students at the University of Southampton. They are doing stuff with AI that will change maritime archaeology forever. It's beginning with the HMS Victory, but AI is on its way to revealing every single shipwreck on the bottom of the sea. This cutting-edge collaboration between the university and the National Museum of the Royal Navy is all about turning centuries-old ships into living digital archives. Through artificial intelligence and digital modeling, they are not only saving Victory's legacy, but they are also laying the foundation for a full-blown digital museum experience. Dr. Rodrigo Pacheco Ruiz, archaeological data manager for HMS Victory, said that archaeologists are obsessed with detail. I mean, yeah, no surprise there. You don't dig through 18th century shipwrecks unless you're really into specifics. But with thousands of scattered historical images across different formats, sites, and devices, keeping all those details intact is no small task. That's where the student's AI system comes in. By matching photos from multiple sources and stitching them into an accurate 3D model, this new system preserves archaeological sites in perfect clarity. It's like digital Tetris, but with priceless heritage instead of falling blocks. The students developed a deep learning algorithm that tackled over 3,000 images from the ship's decade-long restoration. It analyzed, categorized, and seamlessly slotted them into a massive 3D rendering of the vessel. This AI is so good, it could probably tell you which of the ship's cannon had the best view of the battle. Welcome to the digital dockyard. Scientists aren't stopping at preservation. At the University of Texas, Austin, Layla Character developed an AI model that can recognize specific wrecks on the ocean floor. It uses photographs of the ships to identify lost wrecks through pieces of debris. The bottom line is that AI will soon compile a database of every sunken ship ever. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is happening. Then other AI programs will preserve these ships, like the HMS Victory, in a perfect digital library, which anyone at home can browse. The future of museums is VR goggles and your PC. Resurrecting a Stone Age teenager. AI has gone too far. It was okay when mapping lost cities and rediscovering lost languages, but now it's being used to resurrect people who have been dead since the Stone Age. That's not natural. Over 8,000 years ago, a teenage boy died in a cave on the coast of what we now call Norway. In 2025, a forensic artist with the patience of a saint and an AI powerful enough to stalk your great-great-great-grandpa brought him back to life. Not physically, of course. AI isn't out here pulling necromancer moves, but the forensic artist did use AI to bring the Mesolithic kid's face back to life. Say hello to Visteguten, Norway's oldest teenager, now digitally resurrected. And this is what he looked like. Not exactly the spitting image of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Viking with a rippling six-pack, right? Mesolithic Norwegians had darker skin, darker hair, and darker eyes 8,000 years ago than they do today. Visteguten was initially found in 1907 by archaeologists exploring the Vistehola cave. They stumbled across the skeleton of a young boy and kept the bones for over a century without knowing anything else about him. He was a total enigma, nothing but a nameless skeleton. Then, Swedish forensic artist Oskar Nilsson teamed up with AI to give the boy a face. And not just any face, a fully reconstructed, museum-worthy likeness that bridges the eons between his time and ours. The result is, well, you saw it already. A solemn, long-haired teen who might remind you of someone you went to school with. Only Viseguten knew how to gut a fish with a stone knife and could probably run as fast as a cheetah. Nilsson, known for reconstructing ancient faces with forensic precision, used the boy's actual skull and the latest in AI-powered reconstruction tools to build a realistic portrait. If you're wondering how Nilsson came up with the more superficial features, that's easy. Missing data like skin tone, eye color, or hair was filled in using educated guesses and neutral features. The only part of Viseguten's mystery that Nilsson couldn't solve was his cause of death. When his body was found over 100 years ago, Viseguten was leaning against the wall of the cave. But was that how he died? Perhaps slipping and falling while fishing? Or was he placed there after death in some kind of ancient ritual? No one knows, but it sure is haunting to think of Viseguten's last moments alone in a dark, hollow cave. How did we make fire? How long have humans mastered flame? For how many years has humanity been keeping the dark at bay with blazing torches? As it turns out, a lot longer than scientists ever thought. At a dusty dig site in western Israel, researchers just uncovered some of the oldest evidence of fire use ever found. Not by spotting ashes or charred bones, but by letting AI do the detective work. The site is Evron Quarry, first excavated in the 1970s. The tech is a mix of artificial intelligence, deep learning models, and molecular-level spectroscopy. The timeline is, hold on for dramatic effect, a whopping 800,000 to 1 million years ago. AI has just proven that a mysterious human species was using fire almost 1 million years ago. That was more than 500,000 years before Homo sapiens even evolved. Who in the world was out here starting bonfires and roasting marshmallows? No one really knows. The ancient fire wielders didn't leave their calling cards behind. If it wasn't for AI, scientists wouldn't even know that humans had fire back then. The challenge with ancient fire is simple. Time erases the evidence. Ash crumbles, charcoal fades, and once that's gone, archaeologists are left with a lot of rocks and no proof of diddly squat. That's why, for decades, even though experts suspected early humans were using fire prior to 200,000 years ago, they couldn't prove it. Until now. This latest breakthrough comes from a research team made up of scientists from the University of Toronto, the Weizmann Institute of Science, and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Instead of digging deeper, they looked closer, using AI-powered models to examine tools and animal bones recovered from Evron Quarry nearly 50 years ago. Using high-resolution spectroscopy and deep learning models, the team analyzed 26 flint tools and 87 animal bones, looking for molecular-level signs of heat exposure. These changes are so small that no human eye can catch them. The results showed that the flint tools had been heated to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. One particularly charred surprise was a tusk from an extinct elephant that showed the same thermal damage. Why were they roasting elephant tusk, though? That's kind of weird. Anyway, Professor Michael Chazan from the University of Toronto said all this evidence points to controlled fire use, not just chance burns from a brush fire, which I know that's what you were thinking. This kind of finding is a big deal because it feeds into the cooking hypothesis. The cooking hypothesis basically says that fire played a key role in human evolution, especially by enabling our ancestors to cook meat. Cooking meant better digestion, fewer pathogens, and more energy. This almost certainly helped grow the big, calorie-hungry brains we rely on today. Alien sounds from the Mariana Trench. For over a decade, deep-sea researchers were stumped. Strange metallic grumbles and high-pitched biotwangs were echoing from the Mariana Trench, the deepest, darkest, least inviting place on Earth. Seriously, it's basically the ocean's basement. The sounds were so odd, so unnatural, they made some scientists wonder if they were hearing a secret submarine or, aliens. But the truth is pretty interesting. The culprit was none other than a giant baleen whale with a regional accent, like that one rural relative you have who you only see at Christmas. What's amazing is that the Mariana Trench mystery was solved thanks to a powerful AI system developed by Google and deployed by researchers at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Scientists have now confirmed that those eerie underwater noises were coming from bridge whales, an elusive species that can grow up to 55 feet long and rarely show up on camera. They've got the size of a bus and the stage presence of a ghost. The Mariana Trench version of these whales seems to speak a unique dialect, a custom blend of low-frequency groans and pinging metallic notes. They are still bridge whales, but their home in the deepest trench on Earth has given them a very specific dialect. Who would have thought the ocean's big mystery of the year would be a whale with an accent? It's crazy because this sound has been driving scientists nuts since it was picked up on hydrophones near the Mariana Trench in 2014. Fast forward to now, researchers used a machine learning algorithm to analyze over 200,000 hours of deep-sea audio. That's the equivalent of listening to whale calls nonstop for 23 years. And AI did it without a single coffee break. I know it's not archaeology, but it's still pretty cool. The system converted sound waves into spectrograms, visual maps of audio, and then cross-referenced them with known whale calls. After running the data, it confirmed that the mysterious noise matched bridge whale calls recorded around the Mariana Islands, which sit just above the trench. Anne Allen, lead author of the study and NOAA scientist, said these sounds are so weird, the average person would think they're from a ship or military tech. But nope, just a whale. The plot twist is that only the whales near the Mariana Trench make these bizarre calls. Bridge whales from other regions don't use the biotwang, suggesting it might be a localized dialect, like a deep-sea version of a southern drawl or a Scottish brogue. It's possible they use the biotwang as a kind of contact call, a sort of Marco Polo of the ocean, because even 55-foot mammals need to check in with their friends. This study not only solves a decade-long mystery, but also shows how artificial intelligence is helping humans eavesdrop on nature in ways we never could before. It's another example of how machine learning is becoming a kind of digital archaeologist for the natural world, unearthing insights buried in data we've had all along. And honestly, it's pretty poetic. At the bottom of the ocean, in a trench deeper than Mount Everest is tall, a whale was calling out. If only AI can hurry up and learn how to figure out what the whale was actually saying. Don't you want to know?
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
The cold core. The red planet is our celestial neighbor, and yet it's incredibly different from our own world. It's frigid, with nighttime temperatures falling to minus 220 degrees Fahrenheit at the north and south poles. Mars is plagued by brutal dust storms that sweep across the surface. It's barren and devoid of life, and it's an inhospitable nightmare. But billions of years ago, Mars wasn't such a destitute place. It was warm, tropical, and maybe even brimming with life. Liquid water flowed across the surface. There were shimmering lakes, winding rivers, and all the similar geological features you can find on Earth today. But then, something happened to Mars. It lost its magnetic field. Without it, the sun burned away its atmosphere, dried up its water, and almost certainly killed whatever life had been thriving there. For decades, scientists have been trying to figure out why Mars lost its magnetic field. Now, researchers from the University of Tokyo have learned that the magnetosphere was likely destroyed when the core of the planet went from liquid to solid. That very same thing could happen to Earth. Earth's core is made of the inner core, solid iron, and the outer core, molten iron. 4.5 billion years ago, the entire core was molten. But since then, the planet has been cooling down. As the planet cools, the core gets less and less molten, and when the core completely solidifies in the future, the magnetic sphere protecting us from the sun's radiation will be destroyed, and we will all roast as our atmosphere is blasted away. The good news is that it won't happen anytime soon. Probably. The Great Flood. In 2021, Pope Francis warned the people of Earth that another great flood was coming, just like the one from the Bible. He said it's going to happen because of climate change. The Pope's dire warning has been repeated by scientists. Scientists who say it's only a matter of time before a biblical flood comes to wash away all of California. This apocalyptic event has been dubbed the Arc Storm scenario by researchers with the U.S. Geological Survey. New research published by the organization claims the flood is not a possibility, but an eventuality. It will happen. It's only a matter of when. The experts claim that when this great flood comes, California will be hit especially hard. Over 1 million people will be forced to flee their homes, while the entire coastal part of the state will be suddenly submerged under dozens of feet of water. Historically, California experiences major floods every 100 to 200 years. The last one happened in 1862. Thousands of people were killed, entire towns were washed away, and the state went bankrupt. It happened due to a series of atmospheric rivers, which are concentrations of moisture in the sky, like flying rivers that get dumped on a specific area. In 2021 and 2022, atmospheric rivers caused widespread damage across the Pacific Northwest. In Canada, the only road connecting British Columbia to the rest of the country was completely washed away. Scientists believe that in the years to come, more of these atmospheric rivers will wash away California. But of course, California won't be the only one to suffer when the Great Flood comes. All the coastal areas of the world will be flooded, which will cause millions upon millions of people to flee inland, creating massive chaos, anarchy, violence, and apocalyptic destruction. No more moon. There is a pretty high possibility that one day our moon will no longer be within our orbit. And if that happens, civilization will come to a screeching halt. Scientists say that our moon drifts about 1.5 inches away from us every single year. And each time that happens, our rotation slows down ever so slightly. If the moon drifts far enough away, there will be some dire consequences for our planet. The full moon is about 14,000 times brighter than anything else in the night sky. Without it, night would be utterly dark and terrifying. Then there are the tides to think about. Without the moon close by, our tides would be disrupted in a major way. They would shrink by about 75%, almost instantly killing and drying out marshes and mangroves and all the little critters that feed everybody. Crabs and mussels and worms that live in tidal zones would all die. This in turn would disrupt the diets of larger animals, which would send the entire global ecosystem into a death spiral. In a very short time, all natural life would decline, and there would be mass extinctions. Just think of all the animals that live by the coast. Another scary change would be the weather. The tides and currents mix cold water from the Arctic with warm water in the tropics to create a balanced and stabilized worldwide climate. Without the moon, the weather would be insane. It could be blistering hot one day like you were standing in the Kalahari Desert, then freezing cold like you're at the North Pole the next. It would cause global chaos, and humanity would almost certainly perish. The last selfies of the world. An artificial intelligence program called Midjourney was recently asked to create artwork from the end of the world. This program was what you might call an engine for imagination. You can ask the artificial intelligence to create artwork of anything, and the AI will then use its superior intelligence to craft totally unique pieces of art based on your parameters. One user decided to take things to the extreme. This person didn't ask it to create pictures of bunnies or rainbows. It asked the software to generate images of the last selfies taken on the last day on Earth. The results are utterly horrifying. The AI was able to reach deep into world history and the present state of human affairs and come up with terrifying, apocalyptic selfies. These generated images include humans in gas masks against a backdrop of smoke and fire, snapping selfies as the world burns. There is somebody standing at the edge of a great expanse while nuclear missiles can be seen firing off in the distance. Each and every photo is a gruesome glimpse into a possible apocalypse and the last surviving humans at the end of the world, documenting the fiery destruction of the planet. The pictures have got some wondering if the Midjourney AI managed to get a peek of what's coming. Artificial intelligence seems to think our imminent future is a world of nuclear strikes, cities on fire, and people still clinging to their phones, even as the end comes. If you knew the world was ending, what would you do with your remaining time? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. The zombie virus. According to National Geographic, rabies is the real-life zombie virus. Turns out there are viruses that can cause humans to turn into zombies. These viruses don't bring humans back to life, but they do turn them into mindless monsters that might feast on human flesh. Virologist Samita Andriansky with the University of Miami says rabies can drive people to become violently angry. But rabies has been around for a long time, right? It's not as if a rabies outbreak is going to turn the world into an apocalyptic nightmare, one with everyone frothing at the mouth and trying to kill each other. But unfortunately, that's something that really could happen. Researchers say that if rabies were to mix with a flu virus and mutate, we could have a zombie apocalypse on our hands. If the genetic code for rabies goes through enough changes or mutates with something like the common cold, incubation time and transmissibility could spike. This would produce a zombie virus totally airborne and as easy to catch as the common cold. Incubation could be about 5 days, at which point people would suddenly turn into bloodthirsty crazy people. If it spread across the globe, it would be the closest thing to a zombie apocalypse. Slime molds. Intelligent oozing slime has been around for at least 100 million years, since the Cretaceous period. Slime mold, as it's called, is really an intelligent, gigantic amoeba. It began branching off of the evolutionary tree long before animals ever split away from plants and fungi. They don't really fit into any group, while some live as individual cells and others live in massive colonies. One of the most famous of these slime molds is Physarum polycephalum, and it's incredibly smart. The mold is bright yellow and spreads out in large sweeps of veins and branches. Researcher Tanya Latti, who works out of her own laboratory in Australia, calls them little slimy aliens. There are about 900 species of them in the world, mostly in wet and temperate forests. But what does this have to do with the end of the world? Some people believe slime mold will inherit the earth. The mold can smell food using receptors all over its body. It can even move in the direction of food by growing toward it. Slime mold can put itself back together after it's been cut to pieces. This stuff is practically indestructible. There is a small but terrifying chance that one day the intelligence of the slime mold will grow so vast that it will begin to crawl its way across the globe. It will then consume everything in its path. Plants fight back. There is a possibility that one day plants will get sick and tired of human beings and release airborne toxins to rewire our brains. It's a long shot, but it could definitely happen. If this sounds like the plot of a movie, that's because it is. The Happening is M. Night Shyamalan's big picture about plants releasing toxins to force humanity into murdering itself. It is based very loosely on science. Dave Karen, a professor of biological sciences at the University of Southern California, says the science is totally plausible. Around the time the movie came out, Dave had been researching something called pseudonitskia. This is an algae bloom that releases a substance which, when ingested by humans, can cause amnesia. If algae is able to cause amnesia in humans, it's fair to say plants could emit toxins to force them into fatal situations. Dave says the idea of an organism producing a substance which has a damaging effect on brain function is possible, right at the border of science and science fiction. One day, plants might start producing a new toxin as part of their pollination process. That new toxin could wipe out any humans who breathe it in. Death by fire. According to some scientists, the sun will destroy the planet a lot sooner than most people think. It's already an indisputable fact that one day our sun will destroy us. It happens to every planet in every galaxy. The sun at the center of the galaxy burns bright for billions of years. Then it betrays the solar system by dying and exploding like a cosmic hand grenade. The sun functions by burning hydrogen, transforming it into helium, all inside of its core. It burns through roughly 600 million tons of hydrogen per second, which is how it produces seemingly infinite energy. But as time goes on, the core of the sun becomes entrenched with helium. This causes the sun to shrink, speeding up its nuclear fusion reaction, and pushing the sun closer to the day it dies and explodes. Most scientists agree the day that happens is a very long way off, another billion years at least. But according to astrophysicist Gillian Scudder from the University of Sussex, something else could happen even sooner that would devastate humanity. Gillian says that as the sun is saturated with helium, it produces more energy. Every billion years the sun burns hydrogen, it gets roughly 10% brighter. That means that as time wears on, the sun will continuously get brighter. Way before it ever runs out of hydrogen, the sun will become so bright and its energy so intense that it will burn the Earth to death. It will cause all the water on the planet to evaporate, sucking the moisture straight out of the atmosphere. The Big Mutation. 252 million years ago, there was a mutation that ended almost every life form on the planet. 2 genes were transferred from one kind of bacteria to an archaea, and it just about wiped everything out. As you may already know, 252 million years ago was the beginning of what's known as the Great Dying. It's also known as the Permian-Triassic extinction, and saw 90% of marine life and 70% of land life wiped out almost instantaneously. The cause of the massive extinction event was a disruption in the carbon cycle. A burst of carbon was released into the atmosphere, causing temperatures to soar to impossible heights, acidifying the ocean and collapsing every ecosystem on Earth. Through the years, there have been a lot of theories as to why this happened. Some blamed a meteorite, some said a volcano. But according to a new study led by geophysicist Daniel Rothman, there was rampant microbial growth. At the time of the extinction, the archaea called Methanosarcina gained 2 extra genes through mutation involving a bacteria. These new genes gave the microbe the ability to eat waste from the sea floor. As the microbes ate, they excreted methane gas. In a very short span of time, these mutated microbes filled the atmosphere with carbon, which resulted in the near destruction of the planet. Scientists also say there is nothing stopping such a mutation from happening again. The Battle of Armageddon. According to the Book of Revelation, the planet will be destroyed shortly after the last great battle. That's the Battle of Armageddon, which the Christian Bible prophesied will happen at the dead ruins of Tel Megiddo in Israel. It's in the plain outside this city where the gathering armies of good and evil will face off during the end of days. There are a lot of different interpretations to the events in the Book of Revelation. Some believe the Battle of Armageddon is symbolic, while others say it's quite literal. The word Armageddon translates to the plain of Megiddo, in reference to the city. This city was an ancient trading hub which linked Judea to Egypt in the west and Syria in the north. It's mentioned 12 times in the Old Testament and was considered a very important place in the Old World. It was so important that St. John believed it was where the final fight for humanity's salvation would be fought. For Jehovah's Witnesses, Armageddon is the day of reckoning. They believe that Armageddon is when God will finally fulfill his purpose to eradicate sin and death, populating the planet with happy and healthy humans. The Jehovah's Witnesses believe that on Armageddon, the army of heaven will come down to eliminate all the wicked humans, leaving only the righteous remaining. But whether this really is how the world will end, it's impossible to say. Thanks for watching. What do you think will happen at the end of the world? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon. Bye!